The lights blazed across the massive auditorium, casting golden ripples over a crowd that had come to hear one of the most respected voices in modern Christianity, Joyce Meyer. Cameras panned across the faces of thousands, eager and expectant. The air hummed with excitement, but somewhere among the rows, an unfamiliar figure sat quietly, Senator John Kennedy. He wasn't there to debate or argue. He came with a story, one that would soon turn the entire event upside down. From the moment he entered, whispers followed. What's a senator doing here? Is he going to challenge her? But John Kennedy wasn't there for politics. He came for truth, the kind that doesn't hide behind titles or platforms. When Joyce took the stage, her confidence filled the room. With her signature tone, she began to preach about humility, authority, and obedience. Her words struck deep, but as the minutes passed, something unexpected happened. She invited questions from the audience, a rare moment of openness, and when John Kennedy raised his hand, every camera turned. Senator Kennedy? Joyce asked, her voice tinged with surprise. You have something to add? John stood, calm yet purposeful. I don't mean to intrude, ma'am, he said softly, but I have a question about what used to broken bar about authority. You said we should never question leaders because they're appointed by God. But what if that leader uses their position to silence truth? The room fell silent. Joyce shifted slightly, clearly taken aback. Well, Senator, she replied with a polite smile, God places leaders in authority for a reason, even if we don't understand it. Obedience is better than rebellion. John nodded respectfully. Yes, ma'am. But even Jesus challenged the Pharisees. Sometimes, silence in the face of wrongdoing isn't obedience, it's cowardice. The crowd gasped. Cameras zoomed in. Joyce's expression stiffened. She tried to pivot, to move past it, but Kennedy's words hung in the air like thunder before a storm. I appreciate your passion, she said with a strained laugh. But we must be careful about stirring division in the church. God doesn't bless rebellion. John took a deep breath. With respect, I'm not here to divide anyone. I'm here because I once believed being silent kept the peace, but silence nearly destroyed me. The entire auditorium leaned in. Joyce hesitated, she hadn't expected this, but instead of backing down, Kennedy walked toward the stage as the security team looked to her for a cue. She motioned them to stand down. Curious now, John continued, his voice trembling slightly. Years ago, I served under people who claimed to speak for God, a man who used his name for power, not service. I stayed quiet, thinking that was obedience. I watched good people get hurt. I lost friends. I lost faith, until one night, I realized that God never called us to protect lies. He called us to stand for truth, no matter the cost. Joyce's face softened. Something in his words touched her, but pride, or perhaps fear of losing control, made her respond sharply. Senator, I think you're taking this out of context. God is not calling everyone to speak up. Some people are meant to stay in their lane. John looked her straight in the eye. And who decides that, Miss Meyer? You, me, or God? A heavy silence followed. The tension was thick enough to cut. Then, something unexpected happened. People began clapping. It started with a few scattered hands, but soon the applause spread through the room like wildfire. Joyce's expression wavered. For a moment, her well-rehearsed composure slipped. John didn't smile in victory. He simply said, truth doesn't belong to one voice on a stage. It belongs to anyone brave enough to live it. The crowd erupted again, not in mockery or rebellion, but in unity. Some were crying, others raising their hands in prayer. Even Joyce couldn't hide the emotion that welled up in her eyes. After the event, she approached Kennedy privately. Her tone was different now, softer, real. You know, she said, I didn't expect to be challenged tonight, but maybe I needed it. Maybe we all did. John nodded. You've changed a lot of lives with your words, Miss Meyer. But even leaders need someone to remind them that truth isn't ours to control, it's God's to reveal. She smiled, humbled. You're right. Thank you for not staying silent. As the night ended, cameras replayed the powerful exchange across television screens and social media feeds worldwide. Some called it confrontation. Others called it awakening. But for many, It was a reminder that truth and faith aren't enemies, they are partners in courage. John Kennedy didn't walk out of that auditorium as a victor. He walked out as a servant, one who believed that faith without honesty is just theater, and that God honors those who stand up for what's right, even when their voice trembles. The next morning, Joyce Meyer addressed her followers. Her words were simple but profound. "Last night, I was reminded that even a preacher can be wrong, and that God sometimes speaks through unexpected people to remind us that His truth can't be silenced." The video went viral. Millions watched not just to see a senator and a preacher clash, but to witness something far more powerful: a humility meeting conviction, and pride giving way to truth. In the end, the story wasn't about who won. It was about what happens when one man's courage sparks an awakening, proving that sometimes the greatest sermons aren't preached from pulpits, but from hearts unafraid to stand for truth. And as John Kennedy once said afterward in an interview, faith isn't about agreeing with the loudest voice. It's about having the courage to speak when silence feels safer. Because God doesn't bless silence in the face of lies, He blesses truth, even when it shakes the stage. That night, the truth didn't just backfire on Joyce Meyer, it broke through the walls of pride, awakening a generation to stand firm, to speak truth, love deeply, and never mistake silence for faith.